India, India's voice to the world. I'm Abhishek Mahajan, coming up in the next 30 minutes. US, South Korea and Japan agree to deepen military ties and condemn dangerous and aggressive behavior by China in the South China Sea. Thousands flee huge wildfire in capital of Canada's Northwest Territories, with fresh fires sparking evacuation orders in British Columbia. Antim Panghal creates history by becoming the first female Indian wrestler to win back-to-back under-20 world titles. The leaders of the US, South Korea and Japan agreed to elevate cooperation between their countries during a trilateral meeting at President Joe Biden's retreat, Camp David. In a joint summit statement, the three countries committed to consult promptly with each other during crisis and to coordinate responses to regional challenges and threats affecting common interest. The three nations also agreed to hold trilateral military training exercises annually and to share real-time information on North Korean missile launches by the end of 2023.
On information sharing, including on the DPRK's missile launches and cyber activities, strengthening our ballistic missile defense cooperation, and critically, we've all committed to swiftly consult with each other in response to threats to any one of our countries from whatever source it occurs.
Korea, the United States and Japan, in their pursuit of Indo-Pacific strategies, oppose any unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force. Respect for sovereignty, territorial integrity, the peaceful settlement of disputes, amongst other, undergird a rule-based international order that we resolve to safeguard by intensifying our collaboration as part of such endeavors. The unilateral attempts to change the status quo by force in the East and South China Sea are continuing, and the nuclear and missile threats of North Korea is only becoming ever larger under such circumstances.
Need India correspondent Caroline Malone has more from Washington, D.C.
It was an unprecedented day at Camp David, the US leaders' diplomatic retreat reserved for events of the highest importance. South Korea's President Yoon and Japan's Prime Minister Kishida agreeing to new levels of cooperation with President Biden to set up a hotline and commit to consulting each other on issues of importance. Of particular concern to all three leaders, as referenced in a joint statement, is China's dangerous and aggressive actions in the South China Sea and continued ballistic missile testing from North Korea. It took a long time to get to this point, with South Korea and Japan only recently able to resolve issues stemming from Tokyo's military occupation of its neighbour in the early 20th century. Going forward, the three leaders have agreed to hold trilateral meetings annually to share information on ballistic missile defense and new economic and energy security initiatives, including warnings on supply chain disruptions. US officials say it's not a formal defense alliance and not about excluding other nations, but this unusually united front between Japan, South Korea and the US may act as a deterrent to future provocation in the Indo-Pacific. Caroline Malone in Washington for DD India.
Now, South Africa is set to host the 15th edition of the annual BRICS Summit in Johannesburg next week. BRICS represents the group of major emerging economies made up of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. Prime Minister Narendra Modi will represent India and engage with BRICS counterparts. Russian President Vladimir Putin of Russia will not attend in person but will join virtually. BRICS nations make up 41% of the global population. around 24% of global GDP. Now, China has begun military drills around the island of Taiwan. Beijing officials say the moves are a stern warning after voicing anger over the island's Vice President William Lai's visit to the United States. The People's Liberation Army's Eastern Theater Command, which has responsibility for the area around Taiwan, is carrying out joint naval and air combat exercises. The drills are focusing on ship-to-aircraft coordination. William Lai, the man expected to be Taiwan's next president at elections in January, returned from a brief stopover in the United States on Friday. Now, Taiwan has released a video showing its military forces in action after China began drills around the island. Beijing called the drills a serious warning to separatist forces in response to a visit by Taiwan Vice President William Lai to the United States. Taiwan's defense ministry strongly condemned the drills, saying it would dispatch appropriate forces to respond and that it has the ability, determination and confidence to ensure national security. Now, let's take a look at other stories making news today. The third day of the ongoing G20 health ministers meeting in Gandhinagar began with a yoga session. Delegates performed yoga and meditation.
Inhale, come back.
We are grateful to the Government of India, especially to the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, for helping us in time of COVID with vaccines. We received the first round of vaccine from India, and that was a great help during in that time of need. So we hope that this support will continue in days to come.
As part of the present G20 conference in Gandhinagar, Gujarat, the World Health Organization will launch the global initiative on digital health later on Saturday. And Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has addressed the G20 Digital Economy Ministers meeting held in Bengaluru via video message. While addressing the gathering, the Prime Minister welcomed the dignitaries to the city of Bengaluru, the home to science, technology and the spirit of entrepreneurship, and stated that there can be no better place than this to discuss digital economy.
Our unique digital identity platform Aadhaar covers more than 1.3 billion of our people. We have used the power of the GEM Trinity, Jan Dhan bank accounts, Aadhaar and mobile to revolutionize financial inclusion in India. Every month, nearly 10 billion transactions take place on UPI, our instant payment system. More than 45% of the global real-time payments happen in India. Direct benefit transfer of government support is plugging leakages and has saved over $33 billion. The CoWIN portal supported India's COVID vaccination drive. It helped in the delivery of over 2 billion vaccine doses along with digitally verifiable certificates.
The G20 Digital Economy Ministerial meeting begins today in the Indian city of Bengaluru. The Digital Economy Working Group meeting concluded yesterday and prepared a draft for consideration at this upcoming meet. An outcome document is expected to be released at the end of the meeting. The Digital Economy Group offers inspiration and broad guidance to policymakers on harnessing the digital potential of economies. The working group aims at digital transformation to enhance public participation and realize inclusive social and economic growth. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi will embark on a 4-day visit to South Africa and Greece from August 22nd to August 25th. PM Modi will attend the BRICS Summit in South Africa, which will be the first in-person BRICS Summit since 2019. PM Modi will then pay an official visit to Greece at the invitation of Greek Prime Minister. The two leaders will hold bilateral talks where PM Modi will also meet with business leaders from both the countries. All right, time now for a very short break, but still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Canada battles deadly wildfires. British Columbia declares state of emergency. A British nurse found guilty of murdering 7 newborn babies and trying to murder 6 others at the hospital neonatal unit.
Yes. Yeah, not a problem. Okay, you have to take a seat in there for me, Lucy. I'll move that seat forward a bit shortly.
Yeah, I've just had me so as compared to previous years.
And Anna Sabalenka shakes off early serve woes to advance into her third WTA 1000 semi-final of the season.
Welcome to Chandigarh.
Welcome to Jaipur.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. Army chiefs of the West African bloc have agreed to an undisclosed D-Day when they say they will intervene to restore peace in Niger. It follows a coup last month with the military junta now in control of the country. The ECOWAS bloc has a standby force ready for possible military intervention if diplomatic efforts fail. All right, DD India's Isaac Lukondo is joining us from Dar es Salaam, Tanzania, to talk more on this. Isaac, ECOWAS says it has chosen an undisclosed D-Day for a possible military intervention to restore Niger's democratically elected president. I mean, what do we make of this statement?
Well, it's a progression in terms of what has been happening in the last 2 weeks. There's obviously more consensus amongst ECOWAS members, with just the exception of Cape Verde that hasn't agreed to send in troops, and of course accepting the countries like Burkina Faso and Mali that have military rule there. But everybody else seems to be in agreement that they need to send troops there, and therefore forming a standby force. But the conundrum which ECOWAS was in the last 2 weeks still remains, unfortunately, that if they go in, it will present a regional problem in terms of a war there. But if they don't, they will appear as weak, and they will not be able to restore constitutional rule in Niger. And it must be noted that the leader there in Niger took part in ECOWAS interventions. For example, in 2003, he was there in Ivory Coast as a battalion commander. So he knows how ECOWAS works. Although they've said that there is a standby force that is going to go into Niger, but that might be weeks, even a month, to be able to mobilize those troops and get them into Niger. And so perhaps the leader of the coup in Niger is quite aware of this and is playing his cards and continues to solidify his power there, knowing exactly how the ECOWAS machinery works. So it may not be as much traction as ECOWAS would like to see.
But Isaac, also, I mean, talking about the statement, it would not hold endless dialogue with the defiant junta. It's a big statement to make. Does it mean that all diplomatic dialogues have failed and this is the only solution now? What do you think can be the consequences?
Well, from what we can make out from the meeting they had that concluded yesterday on Friday, they are still open to dialogue, and they are still actively pursuing dialogue with the military junta there. The military junta itself has said that it may consider some form of dialogue with ECOWAS. But it seems to be failing so far, because there was a delegation that was sent. There was even a parliamentary delegation of ECOWAS that was supposed to go in there. So the question of dialogue seems to be failing so far, although they're keeping those doors open. But this is the reason why we even have the question of a standby force. And the consequence of a failed dialogue is something that everybody in the region doesn't want to see, and that is continued conflict in an already volatile region.
Yeah. And Isaac, before we leave you, I mean, how are other countries reacting to it? Any reactions?
Well, for the most part, there has been condemnation of what has been going on in Niger. The latest voice to come into the fray is Germany, which called for sanctions, EU sanctions on Niger. But at the end of the day, the people that are most hurt from those sanctions are ordinary people in Niger, already cut off from electricity, the rising cost of living, food prices are really on the rise. And so it's aggravating them even further, because what the military junta has been able to do there is to run a very good campaign of informing the people in Niger that it's the ECOWAS is siding with the West and it's foreign intervention. And so the people who are trying to restore constitutional order in Niger have to also wage a war of information, or the right information, to be able to win this war, not just militarily or diplomatically.
Right, Isaac. We'll end it here. Thank you for getting us the latest on Niger. The 55th ASEAN Economic Ministers meeting is scheduled to begin today in the ongoing ASEAN Summit in Indonesia. Hundreds of delegates from 23 countries, various international organizations and international business associations would attend the meeting. The series of meetings include the launch of the new ASEAN Tariff Search Portal, signing off a memorandum, launch of the registration of intellectual property rights and signing of the Second Amendment Protocol. Now, health authorities in Kuwait have officially announced the detection of the latest variant of COVID-19 within the country. Identified as the EG5 subvariant of Omicron variant, this strain has been rapidly circulating in the United States and the United Kingdom since May. While the health risk associated with this new strain is currently assessed as low, its rapid transmission is raising concerns of a potential surge in infections. Canada battles deadly wildfires. The Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has said the federal government will actively contribute to help communities rebuild following terrible losses as the country continues to battle its worst ever wildfire season.
The federal government is there with the significant military assets. We're coordinating the air evacuations. We're making sure that we're there to respond to all the needs of community now, and will be there in the coming months and years as we look to keep people safe moving forward, even as we rebuild in places where there are terrible losses. The number of people who've been evacuated, who've been taking these incredibly long drives to get to safety, doing it in a thoughtful, orderly way, being there to help out each other and look out for each other, is really the best of not just what Canada is, but particularly people who live in the north, where the sense of community and looking out for each other is truly extraordinary.
Meanwhile, British Columbia has declared a state of emergency and has ordered 15,000 people to evacuate.
Right now, we are facing the worst wildfire season in our province's history. This unprecedented situation has come to a head this evening. In just the last 24 hours, the situation has evolved and deteriorated quite rapidly. In just the last hour, we've gone from about 4,500 homes under evacuation to about 15,000 homes, families being evacuated from their homes across the province.
Experts say climate change has exacerbated wildfire problems, leading to bad air quality and climbing temperatures. Wildfires are not unusual in Canada's western provinces, but this year the eastern provinces have witnessed extreme fires resulting to hot weather. Major political parties of Nepal congratulated India for its 77th Independence Day in an event organized by Nepal-India Friendship Society. Leaders from the parties have praised India and said that India has progressed with launch of Chandrayaan-3, and with accelerated growth of India by 2047, India may stand as developed country. India and Nepal share a common culture, heritage and unique relationship. Now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. A protest broke out in Pakistan's commercial capital Karachi on Friday. Pakistani traders protested against rising petrol and electricity prices. Earlier this week, Pakistan announced a hike in petrol and high-speed diesel prices, a second such hike this month. Meanwhile, Caretaker Information Minister Murtaza Solangi said that the government is incapable of reducing the cost due to an agreement with the International Monetary Fund. A nurse in northwest England has been found guilty of killing 7 newborn babies and trying to kill another 6. 33-year-old Lucy Ledbay murdered 5 baby boys and 2 baby girls who were in her care in a neonatal unit at the hospital where she worked. She also tried to murder other newborns during her time on the ward between 2015 and 2016. All right, let's get to you sports updates now. Indian wrestler Antim Panghal made history on Friday. She became the first Indian female wrestler to win back-to-back under-20 titles, successfully defending her 53 kg crown. Displaying a mixture of remarkable agility and unparalleled strength, she outshone the global platform. Hailing from Hisar in Haryana, Panghal exhibited domination throughout her bout against her Ukrainian competitor Maria Yefremova. The display of raw power and strategic moves earned her an easy 4-0 win. The entire tournament saw Panghal conceding only 2 points. And Carlos Alcaraz was forced to endure 3 sets for the 3rd match in a row at the Cincinnati Open as he clinched a semi-final spot after beating Max Purcell. The Wimbledon champion and world number 1 ran 4-6, 6-3, 6-4 on Friday in a 2-hour-long clash with the Australian qualifier. The win means he's only 2 wins away from his 3rd ATP 1000 title of the season after winning at Indian Wells and in Madrid earlier this year. Alcaraz will face Hubert Hurkacz in the next round after the Pole avoided an embarrassing turn of events to come through against Alexei Popyrin. Second seed Novak Djokovic also advanced to the last 4 of the Cincinnati Masters. Djokovic beat American Taylor Fritz 6-0, 6-4 at the Lindner Tennis Family Center today. Djokovic will face German Alexander Zverev next. In women's singles, number 2 seed Arna Sabalenka got past 5th seed Ons Jabeur 7-5, 6-3 to reach the semi-finals for the 2nd straight year. Jabeur got treatment on her right foot during the 2nd set and struggled after that. Sabalenka will face Karolina Muchova, who advanced when Marie Buskova retired with a right thigh injury. In another women's singles clash, number 7 seed Coco Gauff of the United States moved into the Western and Southern Open semi-finals for the first time with a 6-3, 6-2 win over Italian qualifier Jasmine Paolini. Gauff is past world number 43 Paolini in 1 hour and 12 minutes. Gauff is the only American woman to make it into the singles quarterfinals on home soil this week. In the semis, Gauff will face world number 1 Iga Swiatek. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India Live, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Abhishek Mahajan. From all of us here in Delhi, thanks for watching DD India.